Does someone have?
Oh, that's my cat. Sorry.
Baby, don't even. It's all right. It's life. But people used to hear us in the background when my father was doing radio interviews. He says, "I've got children,"
Uh,
as I was saying, and that's it. And then Snicker would bellow in the background. So that was that. We were good. All right. So we are up now in 5, 4. Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It looks like the shutdown is ending at least until January. But was this compromise or capitulation? Looks like capitulation to me, and a lot of Democrats coming off of the thrilling wins of last week. Really went beyond party, everybody. People were looking for folks with fresh ideas and folks who are willing to go in and fight. Fight for our health care. Make no mistake, this has been about health care. Yale University has a study that shows that this big, beautiful bill, as it is presently constructed, could cost 50,000 million Americans per year their lives. That's just a jumping off point. 10 to 20 million people and their families will not be able to have health care. I didn't say 10 to 20 million people. I said these persons and their families. A whole lot of people will be feeling a lot of misery. And that was all thrown under the bus, and no one knows why. We do know that although Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, although he voted no, apparently, according to reports, he engineered the deal. So we need to talk about that because your premiums are still about to shoot up through the roof for health care. Medicaid, the cuts, all of the healthcare cuts, the $1 trillion of healthcare cuts remain in place, and the trillions, plural, of dollars of permanent healthcare cuts for millionaires, billionaires, and soon to be trillionaires are being held in place. I want you to think about that for a minute. After the massive wins, Americans let Washington know exactly how we felt last Tuesday. At every single level. Thank goodness none of these senators were on the chopping block. I mean, look at what happened in Virginia. Look at what happened in New Jersey. Look at what happened in our nation's largest city. Look at what happened with Proposition 50 in California. People are very, very serious about making changes. And this is really not, it's transparently transpartisan. This has nothing to do with parties. It just so happens that at this time, we're thinking that the Democrats are going to stand up for us. What happened? What happened? When I looked at the Common Dreams headline, it was absolutely pathetic. I quote, Senate Democrats denounced for caving to the GOP in the shutdown fight. And when you look at corporate media, they are not saying any of that. And if you don't mind, I'm going to quote Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Yep. He's related to me, but he did say this. Let's be clear, quote, this proposal isn't a compromise. It's a capitulation. I think he got that from me. I don't know. He went on to say millions would lose their health care coverage and millions more would face skyrocketing premiums. The Senate should reject this misguided plan. In the House, my vote will be all caps, hell no. Ezra Levin on Blue Sky said the original Democratic demands were permanent ACA subsidies, Medicaid funding restored, no more blank checks for the regime. That is rescission. They dropped Medicaid immediately, went silent on rescission, cut back to 1 year of subsidies on Friday, and surrendered today. And guess what, everybody? We're still going to have another fight in January. But will there be a fight? Can you trust the Democrats now? If you cave when you have all of the wind at your back, we had the Republicans on the run, the oligarchs, if you will. See, the Republicans are just standing in for the oligarchs, but apparently so are the Democrats. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? I want to know what your thinking is, because we have seen AOC and Bernie Sanders and a lot of people come out. People are calling for Chuck Schumer to be primaried. Mm-hmm. I want to know what you think. Because everybody The cost of groceries has not gone down. And be very clear, if your neighbor doesn't have health care, you are imperiled also. We should have learned that in COVID. You're only as healthy as the unhealthiest person in your environment.
Mhm,
Think
mhm.
about that. So, what is going on here? Well, we have got Jane Ruby, League of Women Voters of Chicago, Anusha Thodakura, Citizen Action Illinois, and Attorney Terry O'Neill, President Emeritus of the National Organization of Women. We are going to start with you, our beloved uh, Attorney Terry O'Neill. What do you make of this? You have been in Washington, you have lobbied, and you know this how this is going to hit women, but that's not your only concern. It's gonna if it hits women, it hits families, it hits everybody. Were you shocked by this? Just tell me what you think about this deal.
I mean, I shouldn't have been shocked. I was certainly sickened when I saw this happening. I think it is despicably cynical. As I'm calling them fondly, the asshat eight. Two of them are resigning. They're not running for reelection at
Mm-hmm.
all. Of the remaining Democrats, there was 7 Democrats and the one independent, Angus King. Of the 7 Democrats, 2 are not running for reelection, and I believe the remaining 5, 3 are up in 2028, not up until 2028, and the other 2 are not up until 2030. So
That's
this was cynically orchestrated, presumably by Chuck Schumer,
Mhm.
to have the least vulnerable Democrats pull the rug out from under 50,000 Americans every year who will die unnecessarily, die preventable deaths for failure to be able to have health coverage. 50,000 Americans every year consigned to death and their families devastated because they couldn't get health coverage. So just so your listeners and your viewers know, I just want to throw out a phone number, 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. That's the Capitol switchboard. I have called the Capitol switchboard today and asked to be connected with Senator Schumer's office. I left a message urging him to resign. If he can't do better than contributing to the unnecessary preventable death of 50,000 Americans every year, he doesn't belong in the Senate. He doesn't belong in any public office. He needs to resign. I called Senator Tim Kaine. When I was president of the National Organization for Women, I helped him get elected to the Senate. I thought he had been on a journey as a social justice Catholic, as I think of him, who was opposed to women's access to necessary reproductive health care, including abortion. I did not think I was going to support him, but I met with him and he told me about why he changed his position on abortion, his own personal journey in that. And I enthusiastically helped him get elected to the Senate. I called him today, left a message urging him to resign. If 50,000 Americans dead every year because of his action makes it inappropriate for him to remain in the Senate. I also called Senator Jackie Rosen. Similarly, when I was president of NOW, I helped her get elected to the United States Senate, and I urged her to resign. I don't think that these people have any business being in public office, taking the kinds of actions they have. I have also left comments on the Substack comments of Senator Elizabeth Warren, who I think is an amazing, strong leader in the Senate. She said, I am voting no against this. The comment that I left for her is voting no is not enough. That is not action. Take action to organize amongst your colleagues to hold the asshat eight accountable for their action. Snub them in the cafeteria at the very least. And by the way, this is a boys' club, and that actually matters to those guys.
It does.
Go right. You know this from your years in Washington, Santita. But also block their legislation with a blue note, whatever that when one senator can stop legislation from moving forward. Use your PAC money. Almost every senator has their own PAC, right, to help them get elected. When they don't need all of that money for their own reelection, they use the money as a power wielding tool to help other senators get reelected or get elected. Use those PACs to primary every single one of the asshat eight, and make sure that you get really good progressives to come into the Senate behind them. Voting no is not enough. That is performative, and we are at a crisis point, and too many people are dying outrageously unnecessarily. So yeah, so yes, I guess you could say I'm a little angry about what's going on.
Well, I think that we should be. Anusha, I know you can't stay with us long, so I want you to take the time that
Yes.
you need from Citizen Action Illinois, because our senior senator, who is not running for reelection, is also part of the leadership in the U.S. Senate, and help me to understand how you feel about this. I mean, and just given all of the energy that went into Tuesday and came out of Tuesday, how excited we were. I mean, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, who's running for the U.S. Senate, she did the Keep Hope Alive show yesterday, and she said, "You know what? As I am walking through the airports, TSA are hugging me. They're saying, hold on. We need you to hold on." Nobody's thrilled about starving, and you know, what do you see, Anusha?
I mean, it is a crisis, and I really appreciate hearing from Terry just now. But I mean, the whole reason that we are in this crisis is because we have Donald Trump in office and Republicans controlling both chambers. And I think Democrats went into this shutdown thinking that they can pressure Republicans if they, if they hold some things that they want as a negotiation chip. And in the past couple weeks, we've seen how cruel the administration is willing to be to withhold SNAP benefits, which never happened before in a shutdown. I know there's litigation on that back and forth, and ultimately there will be no SNAP benefits in a shutdown. But at the end of the day, they went into this shutdown wanting to get health care, wanting to get an extension on the Affordable Care Act, enhanced premium tax credits. And I want to read just a few figures about the impact of these tax credits in Illinois. Over 400,000 people in Illinois rely on premium tax credits to lower the cost of their health insurance premiums. And in Illinois, for some families, that will increase their premiums by over $10,000 a year. And across the country, nearly 2 million young adults are projected to become uninsured if these tax credits expire.
Because if that's $10,000 a year at minimum, that's $833 a month.
I will say it's not at minimum. It varies depending on your income level, how many folks in your household. Yeah. But this is going to have a huge impact on some people. And the ultimate impact is that they're going to choose to go without health insurance. Yeah. And when the number of people who are uninsured increases, everybody else on the insurance pool also will have to pay more because the risk is higher. The risk pool is higher for those who are insured. And Democrats went into this knowing that, the big, beautiful bill, so-called, the big, ugly bill, already gutted Medicaid and SNAP. And so they went into this shutdown saying we at least have to keep these enhanced premium tax credits, which supposedly some Republicans also support, right? Like they support tax credits. They want to support tax breaks. And the fact that they are not willing to hold the line on this one critical issue, it is disappointing. It also, we have to talk about the fact that Republicans were willing to let people starve. Mm-hmm. And I think another impact, TSA workers, I'm glad that Congresswoman Kelly had great feedback from TSA workers. Think about everyone traveling right now and think about the travel for the holidays. Not saying that that's something that senators should be more pressured by than the rising healthcare premiums. But when you think about what should and shouldn't affect how someone votes, I do think that the travel delays and flight cancellations ultimately were a factor for senators more so than rising healthcare costs. And we also have to talk about what this promise of a vote is. It's like a little pinky promise vote that we just have to take Republicans at their word for because they've been incredibly trustworthy until now, that we should just take them at their word. And for some reason, if they weren't willing to give us health care now in this negotiation, we should cross our fingers and hope that we get it in December. And by that point, millions will already have chosen whether or not they're going to enroll in healthcare. So that may be a point where our premiums are already higher because many folks are choosing to opt out of health coverage for the upcoming year.
So, I mean, given your activism and the fact that you are an organizer, and I know your time here is short, that's why I want to hear what you have to say. What is next? I mean, we're 11 months really, and and counting from 2026. But, I just read Chaparral. She said, I haven't been this angry in a long time. I'm extremely frustrated at both parties because they are both failing the American people. Because at the end of the day, Anusha, look, she said, I don't have any more to give. At the end of the day, even if I did not vote for a person who's holding the office, they represent me. You owe me. I didn't vote for President Trump. He's still my president. So I'm feeling a sense of betrayal. 50,000 people a year in a country of 350 million people might not sound like a lot to some people, but let that be someone you love. Think about that, everybody. See, no one, empathy is a real thing. And I don't know why you have to empathize with people, Anusha, before we get it. There's a lot of death and a lot of misery. A lot of people, just think about what people live with. We have the highest maternal mortality in the industrialized world. Black, white, brown, yellow, red. I don't care what your color is. White women. When I used to watch soap operas, I used to get excited when I'd see someone getting pregnant. Oh, they're going to have a baby. My 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Penfold, she passed a wire in the class. She let us know she was having a baby. We were all so excited. Oh, we couldn't wait to see her begin to show and all of this. Now getting pregnant is a death sentence in the United States. That's not hyperbole, everybody. That's a very real thing. Black women die of breast cancer at a faster clip than anybody. What is happening here? So you help me to understand what we're supposed to do now, because now so many people felt so energized from last Tuesday. They felt empowered, Anusha, and now they feel betrayed. Chuck Schumer would not even nod the hat to Mamdani. I'm like, sir, you are the Democratic leader of the U.S. Senate. Your people, your voters voted for this guy. What's the problem? Anusha, what? What is next?
Well, people are sick of hearing it, but what Terry said, call the Capitol switchboard, call your rep, call your senator, because ultimately, I think the empathy problem that you mentioned, a lot of people don't know what the ACA is or what the tax credits do or who it's going to affect, whether or not they're affected or if they get a tax credit. Mm-hmm. But the people sitting on their flights that are having attendants say over the loudspeaker, y'all need to get off the plane because we don't have enough air traffic controllers, so you need to contact your representative. They are pissed and they are calling because of their personal experiences. Everyone else experiencing a minor inconvenience that is much smaller than the possibility of losing your health insurance. They are calling their representatives. So even if you are not personally impacted by an ACA tax credit, well, you still may be, even if you think you won't because your premiums are going to go up. You need to call. You need to advocate. Because there is a limited window of time here during which we can extend these enhanced premium tax credits. And we need to share our story. So if there is someone else that is on the fence or doesn't really do this kind of political stuff and like to make calls, you need to ask them too. The only way that we can make a difference right now when we don't have, power is to organize and out-organize the other side. And unfortunately, they're very successful with their message. They're running out the clock on us, but people need to hear from you. So even if you've done the thing, you're sick of calling, well, call one more time, call one more time while there's still an opportunity to make a difference on this issue.
So, before you go, what else do you want us to know? Because we're finding out more and more the parameters of this deal, and the more you find out about it, the more sickened we are. Because now, when this comes back up in January, Anusha and Jane and Terry, Democrats won't be believed. We're not going to be believed if we push it to the wall. And everything is on the line once again, and they folded. Fetterman, I did not expect anything from him, although he needs to be pressed. Because I think that he has completely betrayed his base. But then we didn't know who he was. He is not some poor working class guy. He's from a very wealthy family. So his whole presentation belies who he really is. So what do you want us to what do you want us to remember as we call 202-224-3121? 202-224-3121, and you need to call whoever. You need to call everybody, Republicans and Democrats. Call them all, because it's very clear we cannot trust anyone and how they're going to vote, Anusha. Your closing thoughts.
I mean, I would say what the discussion has been so far is for people to be able to be critical and independent thinkers about what their elected officials are doing. It doesn't matter if you have a D or an R next to your name. When we're talking about this issue, in this case of protecting healthcare for millions of Americans, we need to be able to talk to folks and ask of them what we would ask of any legislator, to support healthcare. And that means also holding people accountable on our side, that if you're going to vote for a budget to end the shutdown, you need to do what we asked you to do, which is hold the line on the ACA. So I hope that folks can continue to do their research, to learn, to educate themselves, and if they can, educate someone else too.
Anusha Thotakura, and I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And I'm going to have you back. You have got a home here. What did you say? I don't do radio. Yes, you do now.
Thank you so much.
Blessings to you. Jane, talk to us. Okay, because you are leaning now. What does that mean?
I mean, this is exactly what happens when the people, become complacent in their governments. And, we have a lot of people who, don't want to participate, don't get out and vote, don't pay attention. In previous episodes, we've talked about being a citizen is full-time job on top of everything else we're dealing with, and it can be really hard to prioritize, but this is exactly what happens when you don't prioritize participating in it and being active in our democracy. The powers that be, and this is all of the powers that be, this is not a party issue. This is all the parties, all the people in positions of power can take advantage of you. And we're seeing the effects of when they're not prioritizing with the voters, their constituents, the consumers of their products, because we have to include the billionaire oligarchy into the powers that be. When the people, the masses, the majority, the consumers, the voters, when they are not being prioritized in any of the decision making, and you have special interests, you have foreign governments, you have money flowing at such a disgusting abundance at these upper tiers, that is, we're really at sort of the cusp of not being able to withstand, much more, as a nation. Like, we are a very, very fragile country right now because of the complacency at the bottom and the powers that be. And we really, need to, as individuals, harness the power that we inherently have as citizens in this country and reclaim that power back and tell the powers that be, we will not stand for this anymore. Like, this will not continue. It's using the power of our vote, using the power of our voice to reclaim the power that we've had all along. But, whether it's, people being distracted by social media or fancy technology or AI or, fancy consumer goods that, are great distractions that, keep us from actively participating, we need to sort of get back to that foundation of an active and informed voting class. And I mean class in the sense of, it's not about, it's all of us. It's all of us as the people.
But do you think that'll happen? Because more and more of us, everybody has something to win or lose here. The middle class, in the United States is fading. Now we're turning into other countries where you have the well-to-do and the poor. The middle class are a paycheck or two away from oblivion. That's not what middle class life is supposed to be. Middle class life is supposed to be, if something happens to me, I'm supposed to have enough saved. I'm supposed to be able to have enough saved, right, Terry? I mean, but now it's too expensive. I literally need my paycheck. You had the Secretary of Transportation say that because they put the squeeze on everybody, and that's what to me was so appalling. I think it's important for us to remember Jane Ruby, Leave Women Voters of Chicago, and Attorney Terry O'Neill, President Emeritus of the National Organization of Women. The capture by our government of the oligarchs. The biggest business in the world is the United States government. It is more profitable. It has more money, should I say, it generates more money than the top 20 companies in the United States combined. That is why all of these captains of industry get to Washington, because they are on the government dole. They do business with the government. That's how Amazon grew. That's how Tesla grew. Elon Musk makes $8 million a day from the government, from you. Peter Thiel is a government contractor. They even trained Palantir at the CIA. They make private money off of public money. You need to understand what we're looking at here. Don't just look at the government as, this, look at the dome in the middle of Washington, D.C. No. This is a little bit bigger than that. This is big business. And we're watching, to me, Jane and Terry, a corporate takeover, a hostile takeover of our government. Because what they're doing is freezing everything and selling everything off for parts. I mean, didn't we see this in the 80s? That's what did Gordon Gekko say? Greed is good. That's what we're living through. So Terry, help me to understand. I mean, because we need to call, you're right, 202-224-3121. I think we also have to look at, at the, Wizard of Oz, one of my favorite movies. I'm gonna have to watch it again because it's about to come back on. Yes, I did see that it's coming back on too in the next coming days. Dorothy did not realize how powerful she was.
Mm-hmm.
The lion, the scarecrow, they didn't know that they were like, wait a minute, honey, you've always had a heart. You've always had a brain. I mean, Dorothy, you could always go home. All you had to do was believe it. And then when you saw the wizard, she said, are you serious right now? This little teeny man behind this curtain. Wait. Oh, you notice what you did? But it's only as an adult I see it metaphorically and go, wait a minute. She's right. She said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I have been through all of this? I have dealt with this crazy witch and all these people running around my knees, and all I had to believe was that I could go home. And you mean to tell me this is the whiz? He's scared of me.
Right.
What did President Obama say? Look, I'm between you and the pitchforks. Yeah. Terry, I mean, when I heard this news overnight, I said, oh my goodness, this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't good. But it's as I started reading the dimensions of it, I said, this is betrayal, Terry.
Yeah.
Jane. This is, and I don't know how they come back and sell this to the American people, because quite frankly, they had some Republicans migrate over to the Democratic Party. Not to the party, but to the proposition. Because most Americans want Medicare and Medicaid restored. Most Americans don't agree with this big, beautiful bill, Terry.
That's right.
So what are we supposed to do in January? What happens when this comes back up? I mean, are the Democrats going to have any leverage, given your political experience, which is substantial? What do you think?
Well, I don't think that the Democrats that are leading the Senate want leverage. I think they want a few other things. So, for example, Tim Kaine's public statement about his betrayal was that he needed to get his constituents who work for the federal government, and Virginia has a lot of federal government employees in that state. He needed to get them back to work. Notice what he didn't say. And it's worth killing. It's worth the deaths, the unnecessary, preventable deaths of 50,000 Americans per year. He didn't say that, but that's the fact. So that some of his constituents could get back to work for the federal government. That's a calculation that is cowardly and horrible. But that's what his publicly stated calculation was. I have read, and I don't know if I believe it, but I have read that part of the calculation among Senate leaders, and remember, this was orchestrated by the Senate leadership. Chuck Schumer's fingerprints are all over this so-called betrayal, this actual betrayal, because it's very selectively only 8 people were needed. They got the 8 people that don't have to worry about re-election in 2026. They don't have to worry till 2028 or 2030. This was carefully orchestrated by the folks at the top of the Senate. And what I have read is that one of the things motivating them is they don't want to lose the filibuster. There are a lot of senators who are Democrats really like the filibuster. Donald Trump was until this capitulation, Donald Trump was calling on the Republicans to end the filibuster so that they could push this big, beautiful bill through, right? And once you do that, of course, then if Democrats come back into power, they will be under enormous pressure to kill the filibuster to push their agenda through. And the Republicans don't want that, but old guard Democrats don't want it either. Why? Because they're funded by Wall Street and Silicon Valley and the billionaires who rely on MAGA's policies, on the billionaires who rely on the reduction of taxes and the lowering of regulations against corporations. A lot of the corporate funded Democrats are on board with helping Wall Street and Silicon Valley. And what I've read is that the filibuster is that important to these senators that they are willing to take this dramatic step of total capitulation to MAGA on this budget legislation. So I mean, like I said, I've read it from one source. It's a source that I often disagree with. So I don't
know. I mean, I think all of these things come together. But my question is, how do you come home with this? Because I think if anything, this moment should have shown us just how vulnerable we are. People are living with the thinnest of margins.
Right. Well,
even, the high wage earners are a paycheck or two from, I can't get to work.
Yeah.
I mean, Secretary Bennett said that. He said, one paycheck the air traffic controllers could miss, but the second, and that's their calculation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just they're squeezing everybody.
The middle class has been hollowed out. I don't think we are losing the middle class. The middle class is effectively gone. I believe the statistic is that more than half of people in this country do not have $400 in their back pocket for a sudden emergency, a health emergency, or the car breaks down. They don't have $400. If they get that kind of emergency, they're going to have to cut back what they eat. They're going to have to be slow on the mortgage or slow on the rent. They do not have that kind of $400 worth of wiggle room. If more than half the country are in that position, then there is no actual middle class in America.
Mm-hmm. And so what does that mean when you have no middle class in America? I mean, because that's what we keep hearing.
Right.
The politicians run for office. We're saving the middle class. No one mentions poverty.
Right.
I mean, which is so insulting.
Right.
Because so many people are impoverished, or they are a paycheck or two away from poverty, or wait a minute, or an illness.
Yes. And not only do we not have a middle class, but the people who are making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, which is not a living wage in many communities, it's not a living wage. People who are making that kind of money are not working one job at 40 hours. They are working 2 or 3 jobs, very often on schedules they have trouble controlling. And when you're working 2 or 3 jobs and they're all part-time, it's the gig economy. How much time do you think you have to help your kids with their homework? to take your kids to the doctor, to take your kids to go to the parent teacher conferences for your kids. You don't have a lot of that kind of money. So now your children are disadvantaged in their schools, and you're not able to save for their college education anyway, let alone your own retirement. This is in the state of Tennessee, which is a very low income state. There to one adult and one child, the living wage, and that is just the bare necessities, no vacations, no dinners out, no saving for kids' college or retirement, just the bare necessities, it ranges from about $32,000 a year to, no, I'm sorry, $32 an hour, $32 per hour to something like $45 per hour. That's the bare getting by in Tennessee. And that's an adult and a child. The biggest expenditures for an adult and a child are housing and childcare, and then transportation. So because increasingly in cities in Tennessee, people are moving out, far out from the city because they can't afford to live there anymore. So then their transportation costs are a lot higher to get to work. So this is what it looks like to not have a middle class in a country. And when the Democrats do this kind of capitulation move with people, not middle class people, struggling working people who know that they're going to see their health premiums tripled or quadrupled or at least doubled, or in some cases maybe they're up 50%, none of which is affordable to people who are working 2 and 3 jobs. Right? When we see this kind of capitulation, do you really think the Democrats are going to do anything good in 2026? You think they're going to win elections? I don't. I think that is exactly the kind of thing that Donald Trump and the MAGA were able to capitalize on and convince an enormous number of people to vote Trump into office. Right? And the Democrats are sitting there twiddling their thumbs and going, well, golly, we're so much better than Trump. We don't understand why. I mean, I'll tell you why. Because even if you vote against this big, beautiful bill, if you are not taking active steps, and there's plenty of active steps that sitting senators can take, if you're not taking active steps to hold your Democratic colleagues to account for what they have just done, you are useless. You're not taking those steps, you're useless. And voters are not stupid. That's the way voters think about it. It may be unfair. It may be a little off the wall, but that's ordinary people. That's how they feel. And they're not going to spend a lot of time parsing through how you might actually be a little bit useful. If they think you're useless, they don't care about voting for you.
Well, then let me ask you, Jane, and then you, Terry O'Neill. Do you think that people will have, and that's the calculation, I'm sure, that people will have a short memory? That by the time we get to 2026, people will say, let's let bygones be bygones. The Democrats, quote unquote, are better than the Republicans because I don't like Trump, which is they've made it all about this man's personality. That's all. There's nothing substantive. People don't even know what's in the big, beautiful bill. They just know they don't like him. And so what do you think, what do you see the next 11 and a half months looking like? What will the Democrats be able to say to people they want to rally, Jane?
Well, I think a lot of the communications around this particular decision to, quote unquote, compromise and end the government shutdown, has been quite calculating. It's been very much like, unfortunately, hard decisions have to be made. And I feel like that is often a rhetoric we see as a way to excuse bad behavior is, things are really hard. I have a really hard job to make. I can't do it all. But the thing is that, that's what our elected officials are supposed to ensure, that we can have it all. We can have our basic needs met. They can't, the idea that they can just sort of be like, hey, this is the best we can get because, there's a percentage of people that, need to go back to work. So, it's okay for other people to die or other people to lose their health coverage. And, a lot of people are going to be like, okay, it's a hard job being a senator. You know, only 100 people in this country are senators. But if you got back to like the bare minimum of what prioritization of people looked like, you don't have to compromise on a handful of people going back to their jobs versus people having health care. You could have it all. You could have everyone in this country can have health care. Everyone in this country can have, you know, basic needs kept so that they're not going hungry, that their kids can have a quality education, that people can feel safe in their communities. Like, these are bare minimum things that, like, everyone should be looking, how can we get one step closer to that as the ultimate goal, instead of, you know, elected officials being like, oh, you know, I really had to just like decide between two things, and, you know, it was really hard, and like, vote me back in. You know, it's like, we should really, and I think to the point of, you know, what we really saw last week and last week's election cycle was a move in that direction, where instead of looking at parties or campaigns or establishment versus not establishment, what really won last week was the movement towards affordability, towards taking care of people. And those are the things that, you know, we really need to be sort of focusing in on, keeping our elected officials accountable for, is how can we move towards everyone being able to be taken care of, you know, and and that, you know, that's really where, you know, the pressure should be kept, you know, moving forward.
Well, I mean, Attorney Terry O'Neill, what do you see, you know, as we're looking forward? Because now 2026 is on. I think 2025 kind of crept up on us,
Right.
but now we're here, and now Chuck Schumer and 8 people who, you know, they can just keep it moving, right? In the meantime, we've got to live with this decision. You know, we've got to live with this, and I don't know, Terry and Jane. I think that people are beginning to ask some questions now that they were not asking a few months ago. You know, because now these cuts are getting real for people. I mean, this is a lot, and I think people are beginning to see just how cruel these people are willing to be. That they're willing to starve you out. They're willing to take away your health care. They're just, you know, they're fighting the Department of Agriculture for putting the money on your card so you can get your food. Thanksgiving. Wow. I mean, Terry, how do you take this to the American people?
So I just will tell you, in my community, one of the things that we are doing as well in the activist community and also in the faith community, we are dramatically ratcheting up our mutual aid. Right? We are pooling our resources for Thanksgiving to provide food assistance to people who have been cut off from food stamps, also known as SNAP benefits. I don't know what's happening in the healthcare, but I think there is going to be a mutual aid response to the healthcare. This crisis, you know, needs that kind of immediate response. My sort of honestly, my North Star in providing this kind of response is what the Black Panther Party did in Oakland back in the 1960s. They saw the kids were coming to school and they couldn't learn because they didn't have food in their bellies, and so they created the free breakfast program on their own. It was mutual aid, and this is what I'm seeing in my own community that is happening. It started with the immigration raids by ICE, forcing a lot of people to just stay home and not be even able to go to the grocery store. So mutual aid networks started sprouting up where we are now going to the grocery store and delivering groceries to families whose loved ones have been disappeared by ICE, and they don't have a breadwinner in the home, and they're afraid to leave their own home. So anyway, it started with that. Now we have the food stamps disaster, and then soon we're going to have the healthcare disaster. What we have, and in my community, what we are understanding is that Congress is not going to help us, that Donald Trump is actively trying to hurt us, and that no one is going to save us. We must save ourselves, and that's really where the focus is. The pundits can talk about how this helps or hurts Democrats. I'm pretty sure it's going to hurt Democrats. I think they're untrustworthy. I think they've just shown themselves to be completely untrustworthy. I don't think if they go out on the stump in 2026 and say, oh, healthcare, I don't know that many voters will actually believe them. I hate to see it because, that just empowers MAGA. But I've got mouths to feed in my community, and that's probably where most of my resources are going to go.
Well, Effie Rolfe, she is a legend in radio here in Chicago, and quite frankly, in the church community. She said some were saying, should more people not have jobs or paychecks, no SNAP and healthcare increase? And now they feel people can eat, get a paycheck, jobs back, and negotiate about healthcare. The problem is, Effie, they're not going to negotiate about healthcare. They feel, it's when you blink.
Yeah.
We blinked. And so now they can say, we can do whatever it is that we want to do.
100%.
That to me is what is so tragic about this. Yeah. That because I think that the American people are in a fighting stance right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have been, up until this moment, they have been ready to take on the system and make it work for them. Because quite frankly, ACA, that's a bit of a boondoggle. I think you need Medicare for all.
Yes. Yes.
We're asking the wrong questions. Again, we don't even realize how powerful we are. Is the government formed by you? If the government were not powerful, if we were not powerful, Elon Musk and company would not be up in it. You would not have SpaceX without government contracts. You would not have Tesla without government contracts. You would not have Big Pharma without these. Come on, Terry.
Microsoft. You wouldn't have Microsoft. You wouldn't have Google. You wouldn't have any of these extractive, exploitive organizations that, born on third base and think they hit a triple. None of them, right?
I think we have to, Chappelle talked about the 50-year mortgage. I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes, I do get her feed, everybody. I sure do. Because I get the feed from a whole lot of people with whom, because I agree with her on a lot of things now. At least on some things that are very important to me. They're bright line issues. She said the 50-year mortgage, so you can be in debt for 50 years. Thank you, Chappelle. She said a 50-year mortgage. We used to have a 30-year mortgage so you could breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You could pay it off in 30 years, which meant you were able to, at one point, then you could draw down on the mortgage. You could get loans. Now, they're going to prevent you from getting that. Where's the insult level? Jane, this is, come on, help me. Because also I want to know, as someone who's younger than I am, someone who's younger than Terry, and this is where it becomes a generational thing to me, because your generation are far less inclined to be partisan. You all have gone off of that space. You are like, wait a minute, you want to hear what people are saying, and then you figure out whether you're going to vote for them. I literally have 3 minutes left. I'm going to give 90 seconds to you and 90 seconds to Terry O'Neill.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, we are really at a moral crisis. And the way out of this moral crisis is class consciousness. It is going to be a reconciliation of, it is not going to be, Democrats saving anyone, Republicans saving anyone. It's not a partisan thing. It's not going to be, everyone's own particular issues. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the environmentalists, the feminists, it's not going to be the individual advocacy groups that are going to get us out of this situation. It is a class conscious thing. It is going to be through everyone coming together, regardless of your differences in, a variety of advocacy issues, coming together in an economic sense to elevate everyone and make sure everyone is taken care of. And that is the way we are going to get out of this. It is going to be on issues of affordability. And that is really, when you asked me about being sort of a young person, those are the conversations. Like, you know, the people aren't even looking at, you know, owning a home, going to college, you know, having families, all of these things. People aren't have no interest in younger groups because they're just like, you know, there is nothing affordable about that being a part of my life right now. And, you know, that's not how we grow as a nation. That's not, you know, that's not how we sort of amplify and make younger people want to feel like they're participating. And so I really think we are on the cusp of class consciousness, you know, that a lot of people were, you know, either assassinated, taken out of office, you know, harassed for calling it what it is. You know, you're called a communist or a socialist or whoever for believing that people have basic human rights. And unfortunately, that's what it's going to take. That's where the power is right now. And so, you know, I am calling for class consciousness.
Well, no, but I agree with that. Attorney O'Neill, the last minute belongs to you.
100%, Jane. 100%. As a dues-paying member of the Democratic Socialists of America, I definitely, obviously agree with you. I don't know how we're going to get money out of politics, but that really is so essential. And I tell you, I was my organization here in Nashville hosted a candidates forum for the special election for Congress. We got an open seat here in Tennessee. And there was a conservative independent and a Democrat who showed up at the forum. The Republican had a conflict and said he couldn't make it. He did express interest. He was polite about it. It was a good discussion between a pretty conservative person and a very progressive candidate. And I sat there thinking we need ranked choice voting. Right. So I could vote for my favorite socialist candidate, but also as a second fallback, I could vote for someone else, and it encouraged kind of that consensus candidate building thing. I think that is something that could move us forward. But Jane is 100% correct. This is not about right versus left. The crisis we're facing is not right versus left. It's right versus wrong. And it's up versus down. It's the high income wealthy against literally more than half of us who can't afford a $400 emergency. That's class consciousness. We need to start voting from class consciousness all the way.
And, you know, and really, and understand, everybody, that, you know, racism is a form of classism.
Oh, yeah.
And what I hope that we don't, the mistake that we make, that, you know, and I love Bernie Sanders. I am a Bernie sis. You got Bernie Bros. That's what I'm, Bernie sis.
Yeah.
The thing is, racism is so real. It's so pervasive. And the class issue has been racialized in America. But now what we're beginning to see is it all. Everything is right here. And we're all in this together. We are. That's what we need to understand, that we are in this together.
Yeah. And can I just say, Zoran Mamdani, he gets class, the class crisis that we're in very clearly. He gets racism and he gets sexism and misogyny. He gets all of it. He will govern as an anti-racist, pro-feminist, class-conscious mayor. That is the kind of leadership I think that we need.
Oh, absolutely. We gotta have
it's not hard to be anti-racist. Like, I feel like that's like something that a lot of people like don't get, is it's not hard to like care about other people regardless of what you look like, regardless of what your background is. Like, it should be just like the easiest feeling in the world to care about everybody, you know. And what we really have is, you know, people spend so much time fear of the other, hating other people, saying that person has what I should have, or you know, wanting to deprive other people of what you have because you think that that's the way it should be. It is not hard to care.
Absolutely. And you need to, everybody, because we're all in this together. I tell you that. We are. And we're, if you don't know, soon you will know. Let's talk in the next segment about this book, Burned by Billionaires. Chuck Collins of the Institute for Policy Studies. He is the co-editor of inequality.org. This book is for this time because we've been burned by the billionaires. You need to know why it is important that we've got, 900 billionaires in the United States. 900.
Too many.
Wow. And see, and Elon Musk will be a billionaire. He's a stated trillionaire. We already have those.
Yeah.
We already have those. Too many have too much. Most of us have too little. Let's go into the next hour of the Santita Jackson Show. Everybody click the link. Santita Jackson, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.
Thank you.
you.
Santita. All right. Have a great day.